saying, look, there is an approved form of fish oil. You can still get fish oil in the store. There's just too much of it. They're going to get rid of it. So what's the good of the approved stuff? Well, insurance companies will only pay for approved. So for the same thing in fish oil, you can get at your health food store for $25. You've got to pay over $100. Talk about driving up the cost of medical care. That money is all going straight into the pockets of the people who are selling the stuff.
Your clinic has been raided once, right? A few times?
Yeah, we got raided at gunpoint by agents of the FDA, Los Federales. And when we got the search warrant to read, I would have bust out laughing, except that everybody's adrenaline was going so much because these guys kicked in the doors when they were locked and pointed guns at our reception staff. And that gets your adrenaline going. But it would have been funny because they were there to seize our B-complex vitamins and our vitamin B12.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. But as the Seattle media soon figured out, it had very little to do with that, and it had everything to do with the fact that we had sued the FDA the year before. We tried going through the legal process. Our attorney said we had a very good case, so go through the legal process. Well, 3 weeks after we filed the lawsuit, according to their affidavit to the judge, they started investigating our clinic. They sent through undercover agents. They went through our dumpster outside the clinic in the middle of the Seattle rain. And it took them from September to May, and they finally decided to pull an armed raid. Newspapers want to know why they needed to do that, too. This is a healthcare clinic, excuse us? But that's what they did. Because we sued them. It had nothing to do with the B-complex, the B12. That was just the excuse.
How did your practice and how did your life change after that happened, or did it?
We were closed for 1 week, and we had to take out a loan and reassemble a bunch of stuff. They took all of our employee payroll records, by the way. So I was wondering if they were going to pay our employees, but they didn't. And we're back at work the following week. So it didn't seem to make that much difference to the practice.
It obviously didn't silence you either.
It's too late for that.
Thank God. Thank God. But honestly, after it happened, were you shook up?
Actually, I was too busy to be shook up. My wife, Holly, did a very smart thing. She promptly called the talk show host. And the talk show host had me on the radio 3 hours the day it happened and 4 hours the next 2 days. And by the time 6 months had gone by, I'd been on 150 radio programs around the country. I was just too busy.
Kudos for Holly. Wow.
She did the right thing. But you know what? It did keep us so busy that I lost 14 pounds in the first month. And I was complaining a little bit to Holly, and she's always looking at the bright side of things. She said, hey, you needed to lose weight anyway. So, you know, what we have there is the FDA diet plan. And it goes like this. You're just minding your own business, and some FDA guy comes and sticks a gun 6 feet from your face, and you lose your appetite. But it's federally approved, and it's funded by the taxpayers. What could be better?
Boy, you're gutsy. What are your biggest challenges now, if there are any? And do you consider that right now you're in really the highlight of your life because more people are aware of what's going on?
Well, we have to give a lot of credit where credit's due, and that's to Suzanne Somers.
Yes.
For publicizing this whole field, just dramatically publicizing it. And since she started doing that, that's when it started growing by leaps and bounds. I actually put out the first book on bioidentical hormones for ladies in 1997. And yes, it was the #1 seller in natural health care on Amazon, but it doesn't take that many books in natural health care. It sold maybe 100,000 the first year, and it got up to 250,000. But that was 1997. And then after Suzanne started her series of books on bioidentical hormones, it really took off.
She's done an incredible job.
She does, and she's very, very smart, not at all like the character she played on television. She asks all the right questions in interviews. She does her homework and so forth. So big old thank you to Suzanne for making this a lot more obvious. And then the ladies had been dragging their husbands in. Why should I use these, and why should my husband stay healthier for longer? They're not the answer to everything, of course not. But if we can keep our hormones at a reasonable level, not too high, not too low, we certainly can stay a lot healthier for a lot longer. And by the way, anything you want to go over about testosterone? We've kind of ignored that one except on this anti-carcinogenic one.
Well, I was just going to actually tell you that my dad did have prostate cancer. He didn't die of it. He didn't have leukemia, but he had something wrong with his blood. And my mother died of Alzheimer's, and he was taking care of her. But even before she got that, he got very depressed. And I had said, I heard a little bit of testosterone will make you feel a lot better. And he says, no, it'll cause cancer. It'll give me a heart attack or whatever. And he went to his doctor, and the doctor said, absolutely not. Don't take any testosterone. And I'm clear that my dad would have had many more years of happiness and joy had he been able to supplement and had the knowledge base been in there. So please, in honor of my dad, whatever you'd like to say about testosterone. And there's one thing I do want to say, too, before you go to that, which is that there are some people listening and have said, look, if we're really copying nature, why, if we're in our 50s, 60s, or 70s, or whenever people want to take bioidentical hormones, well, that's not really how nature is, because nature has you where you are, which is that you're being depleted of your hormones. So how are we really copying nature? We're copying the nature of youth then, yes?
Exactly. And for people who say that, one of the first things to consider is that being dead is natural. It's totally natural to be dead. Okay. Having said that, they might have been, I would have agreed with them more in the 19th century and the centuries before. In the 19th century, there was so little heart attack and cardiovascular disease that the very first cardiologist didn't hang out his shingle till 1914 in Boston. It just didn't happen. In the 19th century, there was so little cognitive decline, severe cognitive decline that is, that when Dr. Alzheimer described his first case, nobody had ever heard of it, so they called it Alzheimer's disease. And in the 19th century, with the exception of the Inuit population, who previously were called Eskimo, there wasn't any osteoporosis to speak of either. Now, in the 20th century, Alzheimer's, my goodness, the National Institutes on Aging, another use of taxpayer dollars, tells us that if we survive to 65 years of age, everybody who does has a 45% chance of getting, 45%, it's on their website, of getting Alzheimer's by age 85. Good grief, that's nearly half the population. And you never heard of it in the 19th century. Now, I named those three things specifically because those are things that there is research proof that testosterone and estrogen, gender-specific for each gender, will cut down on the incidence of Alzheimer's dramatically. It will cut down on the risk of cardiovascular disease, and it will cut down on osteoporosis, which are things we didn't have in the 19th century. So pretty obviously, the enormous flooding of the planet with chemicals, the demineralization of the soil, the processing of the food, and all those other things that I'm sure you could name. There's all of the intense electromagnetic fields that we never had.
Yes, absolutely.
All those things have affected us adversely, and what the hormones do is give us the bioidentical ones, when we're older, they give us a fighting chance of not getting into that sort of nonsense.
Is it true that the hormones, both for men and for women, help build bone and muscle mass?
Yes, of course they do that more for men than women, but that's just nature.
Right.
Men use bigger doses of testosterone. Women use smaller doses. But oddly enough, the effect of testosterone in protecting men against cardiovascular disease and against osteoporosis, the ladies sneak in there after all. Researchers have found that there is a local enzyme in bone and in the artery walls that takes testosterone and turns it into estrogen, and then it has its effect.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's men taking testosterone, but it's that local enzyme that actually works on the testosterone to do the job.
Wow, it's so exciting. It must be a never-ending, continuous learning marvel, your life and your job.
Well, I'm having fun, aren't you?
I am.
There you go.
I can't wait to have my 24-hour urine tested at your clinic and have a consult. And I hope that many of the people listening will do the same. What would you do with somebody with cardiovascular disease? So let's say a dear friend of mine, client, just had a quadruple bypass, and they're giving him every drug you can imagine.
That's really too bad.
It's so sad.
There's so so many things that will support the heart